Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and I want to talk to you today about something I'm calling the trauma paradox. And before I dive into all this, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt pain of any kind? It could be physical, it could be emotional, feelings that are uncomfortable for you maybe, and you go to express them. And I'm pretty sure most of us have had this experience in childhood. So if you have to go back to childhood to remember this, go ahead. But have you ever tried to express something to somebody and had the experience of it getting pushed back onto you or minimized or otherwise invalidated? I'm pretty sure we all have had that experience. And it's this kind of way we treat pain in the modern world, in our family cultures, that really leads to what I'm calling the trauma paradox, which is we all want to be normal. And I'm not talking here about normal in the sense of don't be weird. We're all weird and that's normal. What I'm talking about is we all want to be okay. Like we want to be healthy. We want to be normal. We want to be part of, our family culture or our community or the world. And we also want our pain to be validated and okay and seen. What oftentimes happens though, especially as we're growing up, is as you may express to somebody, could be a friend, could be a family member, it could be a teacher, and maybe this is happening in your adult life when you go to express pain of any kind, physical or emotional, otherwise, to someone in your life, and it's invalidated. The experience that we typically have internally when that happens is that we must be other than. We must be defective. There must be something wrong with us, right? Like otherwise they wouldn't be reacting this way. And so we kind of stuff it down or keep it inside and bottle it up, right? And it's really, really, really difficult, I think, as a human experience to feel other than. Like, I actually think this is the origin of all trauma. It's not really what happens to us, it's what we do with it that creates this feeling of otherness, separateness from, defectiveness inside of us. And we think that, or other people maybe have told us that we need to be sequestered away from the normal people, or, if you have depression or any other kind of emotional or psychological disorder, illness, I hate those terms, I don't know what else to call it, but if you have something going on emotionally, psychologically, maybe even physically, and you're labeled with, a disorder, a syndrome, an illness, a disease, suddenly, like I think the most human response we have to this is, oh my God, no, I don't want to be other than. Like I want to be normal, I want to be okay. And it's being treated like that by other people and then by ourselves that, in my opinion, really creates long-lasting trauma that stays with us, that stays in our body, that doesn't get processed and moved out. And what do we need to do to process it out? We need to feel it fully. And I really believe we need to have it seen by at least one other person. It's really challenging to heal any kind of long-lasting chronic pain by yourself. We want to be part of the human race, right? We want to be part of our family unit or our family culture, or we want to be part of, what we project onto the rest of humanity as normal. The irony is we're all walking around very not normal. It's just that we have created this cultural mask, this, assumption or projection that, if you have feelings of depression or, certain emotional experiences that are a little too much, for the people in your life, that it's scary. Oh no, I better send you to a professional, right? Like I'm going to send you to somebody who knows how to handle that because it's too much for me. Well, why is it too much for me if I'm having that experience in relation to you? I'm uncomfortable with my own emotionality or my own pain. So I filmed another video somewhat recently called The Pickle We're In, and these two things really go hand in hand. But today I want to talk about something that I'm seeing out there that I really want to invite you to change with me, which is this trauma paradox. And it involves how we actually sequester ourselves and start to look at ourselves as other or defective or separate from, and then what we do with that. Because it has been my experience that if I feel like I'm depressed, like I remember actually when I was 17 having experiencing like some kind of awareness of what I felt to be depression at age 17. And this was right after a lot of trauma that I'd gone through as a teenager, and then my best friend was killed in a car accident. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I knew I was really scared to do this, but I felt like I should tell someone. And I said, Mom, I think I'm depressed. And I remember where we were standing in our house in Oregon at the time. I remember feeling really quiet. Like I think I said it really quietly because it took a lot to even verbalize it, and I wasn't sure how it would land. And I remember her, not maliciously at all, but I remember her responding with a laugh and saying, "Oh, honey, you are not." And my mom and I have talked about this, and she doesn't really recall that, but it was ingrained in my memory. And I immediately went back in because I was like, oh, like whatever this is not like, it's not being received over there, and I don't want to be other than. I don't want to be defective. I don't want my experience to feel so scary and uncomfortable for the other people in the world and in my life that I'm just going to keep it to myself. And that really marked for me the beginning of not feeling anything at all for like 7 years. I didn't cry for 7 years. And it took me a long time to come back into myself, into my feeling body, into my heart, and to be able to feel, you know, not just physical sensations, but emotions as well. And the thing that I have discovered on my own journey, and I'm certainly here talking to you today because of my own journey of pain and trauma, is, you know, I'm looking out there at the world and I'm really seeing like two main places we can go for pain. Although there are certainly nuances and, you know, different places within these two things that I'm seeing. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk more about the emotional side of things, but I definitely believe there's a physical, and that's involved in what I'm about to say. So we've got psychotherapists and psychiatrists on the one hand, or doctors, right? But usually if you have something emotional going on, if you have some kind of trauma, or you have some, you know, mental, emotional experience that either you or someone in your life has deemed, you know, so big that you need outside help to deal with it, that in and of itself is enough, more than enough, to make, I think, most of us feel other, defective, separate from, right? But then what happens is we go see, you know, one of these professionals, maybe a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, and those people are only licensed to interface with your mind, basically. And in some instances, in the really fringe side of psychotherapy, we have somatic experiencing or other somatic or body-based types of psychotherapy. I have experienced those myself as a patient or a client, and really they're only allowed to use your mind to contact your body. So in the realm of psychiatry and psychotherapy, those people, those professionals, are not allowed to touch your body. So now we've created another separation, right? Another separate from. Our mind must be separate from our body. Or even with somatic psychotherapy, it's the mind, we have to use the mind to contact the body. And then on the other side of things, we have the physical medicines or modalities, right? Of physical therapy, body work, massage, that type of thing. And these people on this side, right, so we have like these two totally separate fields. And then, like I said, the nuances and different modalities within those branches. But on the body side of things, those people are licensed, certified, or whatever to only deal with your body, and they are legally not allowed to practice psychotherapy without a license, right? That means talking about emotions or your mind or anything like that. And so that also creates then a further separation from who you are as a totality. And I believe this is why we're in a pickle right now. We're kind of screwed, excuse me. And we can fix it, but it must be you and I that address this together, and on our own and in our own lives as individuals, as humans, as people taking back our totality. So with this video, I would really like you to invite a new way of looking at yourself and your life and your body that includes the totality and that normalizes everything you feel and experience. Because I believe that that is how we overcome the pickle we're in, and maybe, shatter this paradox, right? And create a new paradigm in which we normalize trauma. Because guess what? Trauma is normal. I have yet to meet a human being in my life who doesn't have some kind of trauma. And that doesn't mean, we talk about it in some circles with like big T, small t. And I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm someone who has been through a lot of trauma in my life, and I also have seen what comes through the body when we contact the body in a certain way. And until we normalize those experiences, that we have in our own life, none of this is going to change. We cannot wait for the double, blind placebo studied, research paper out there, or 23 of them, to finally land on the fact that we can't separate mind and body. And those studies actually are out there. They are coming. But I see a huge, it's going to be years until, I think, even though things are changing, I still think it's going to be years until these two different, segments of how we treat human beings, who have pain, whether it's physical or emotional. It's going to be years until those are merged, and I'm actually a little frightened about what's going to happen if we merge them, because I just don't believe that a licensure or a certification, a piece of paper, or a schooling is, automatically enough to qualify someone to help me. I don't know if you have had this experience, but I've been to many a doctor, naturopath, detox specialist, psychotherapist, somatic psychotherapist, you name it, and not had the experience I was hoping I would have. Body worker. So I wrote something down here that I heard recently in a Gabor Mate video, and I actually think he was quoting someone else, but I forgot who it was. I think it was his teacher. But he said that relationship is therapy. And I love this. And I invite you to consider something right now as a way out of this paradox, as a way of creating that different paradigm that I'm talking about. I really believe it's up to us. We can't wait for the world or our families to normalize trauma in order for us to finally be ready to do the work to heal. We're the ones that have to do it. For whatever reason, we were born at this time in history, at this juncture of, separation of mind and body. And if you're here watching this video, then I am going to assume that you are meant to change this with me and everybody else who feels called. So how do you do that? Well, you have to normalize trauma in your life and in your relationships. And it's not just your relationships with people, though they are a part of it. It's your relationship with your body. And I get really excited thinking about what's possible when we do this together, when we normalize trauma in our lives and we don't wait for the licensure bodies, the government sanctioned scientific studies, to tell us that trauma is normal. If you look around your life, I'm pretty sure you can find evidence that it's everywhere. It's in all of us. And it doesn't have to be that big T, right? Though it certainly includes that. I, for years of my life, have been really frustrated with not finding people out there who could meet me the way I wanted to be met. And the way that I wanted to be met in my trauma, I think, is maybe a little different from most people, but I don't believe it's because most people, actually really truly are the way I'm about to describe, like this kind of description of traumatized people. I think it's because we've been told we are that. And that is, trauma is something to be handed off to a professional. Trauma is, big and scary, and we've got to treat it with a lot of care and, concern and gentleness and caution. And we better be really careful about re-traumatizing anyone. And it's this way of talking about trauma that continues to make us feel other, defective, and separate from, right? So how do we fix this? We normalize what we're feeling, and maybe like me, this is not advice. Maybe like me, that means your primary mode of healing is not psychotherapy. It's not traditional methods of trauma healing. I have used relationships as my primary containers for healing. And they are the best place to do this. Why? Because you don't have to go digging for anything. You don't have to go looking for something that is, not obvious to you. I believe that whatever we're supposed to heal, whatever is up for us right now, is currently in our life as our curriculum. It's staring us in the face. So it might be your relationship between you and your body. It might be your relationship between you and other humans, not just a significant partner, an intimate partner, though that's certainly where we, get the most opportunities to actually look at old stuff. And then it's you and the world, life, nature. Those are the three primary relationships I see where you can immediately implement normalizing trauma, normalizing your experience, and working with it in a way that doesn't designate yourself as other, defective, or separate from. How? You have to start validating your own pain. You have to work at making whatever you feel be okay in your life and in your relationships. You have to see yourself. You have to then elect to be seen by the people in your life, right? And in your relationships. So this is work we can do. This is something we can do on our own, yes, but also in our relationships. So it means welcoming whatever's coming through your body, whether it's a physical pain sensation, whether it's, anxiety or digestive issues, an injury, whatever, chronic pain, autoimmune issues, whether it's, in your relationships with other humans, whatever is happening right there, right now, is your curriculum. If there's nothing up in your relationships, maybe there's nothing to look at right now. Maybe it's you and your body first. And then you and the world, life, nature, to me, is about purpose, meaning, living a fulfilled life, being fed by nature, having a relationship with something bigger than yourself. To me, it's really a spiritual path. I don't know if you believe in that or not. But until we normalize trauma, we're just in a pickle. We're going to stay in that pickle. We're going to perpetuate it. We're going to hand these trauma patterns to our kids, to the next generations. We're going to kick the can down the road. And if you're here watching this video, again, I feel like you want to stop that pattern and help me and everyone else in your life normalize trauma. Now, it is worth saying that not everybody in your life might be up for that with you. So it is something that we are going to encounter when we start turning towards ourselves, honoring and validating and being okay with and seeing what's in ourselves, right? And then allowing that to actually have its full expression in our lives, in our relationships, in our body. That might scare people in your life. So it's definitely worth considering that it's not an easy path. This is not an easy path. This is a warrior's path in a lot of ways, and it is so rewarding. So I invite you to join me in shifting this trauma paradox and creating a new paradigm where it is normal to feel pain, where it is normal to have emotional experiences and expressions of emotion and sensation that might be really big and might be messy and might be dark sometimes or really freaking bright, right? It goes both ways. And the more we normalize that in our lives, we invite the people around us to join us. If we can really truly own everything we are, everything we feel, and express that authentically, right? It is an invitation in and of itself. People will want to join us. This has been my experience, though it's not everybody. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this trauma paradox. And I also want to say that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychotherapist. I believe there's a middle way, a different way. I believe there are more options than we've been given. I believe we are not as fragile as we've been led to believe. I invite you to try on that you have the capacity to be with what's inside of you right now. Maybe no one's given you that permission yet. Maybe people have told you you have to hand that off to someone else who's been trained to handle you, what's inside of you. I believe the time has come for us to take ownership of ourselves and our bodies and our feelings and our healing. And I invite you to join me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please post them below this video. And if you feel like this message is something that should be shared, then maybe share this video. And thank you so much for watching, as always. If you're interested in contacting your body to find out what's there, maybe you're new to my channel, I talk a lot about fascia release and the nervous system and how contacting your body is a really direct way of finding out what's there. If this is all new to you, I'm going to link below this video my beginner's guide to fascia release. It's primarily oriented or geared towards physical pain. And I invite you to check out my other videos on this channel all about the nervous system and kind of the mind-body connection, or more of the psycho-spiritual aspects of everything I'm talking about, so that you kind of get that full picture. But I put together that beginner's guide for you so you can begin to cultivate a practice of using fascia release to move your life experiences out of your body on a daily basis, get out of pain, and optimize. So I hope you'll check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.